With the addition of Jimmy Butler, how dangerous is this Warriors team in the West?
No more dangerous than they were yesterday.
You're not moved.
I'm not moved at all. This is not a mega deal. This is something that's gotten the Golden State Warriors about $19.3 million under the luxury tax, and it's saving them money. It's a business deal.
That right there was a common perception when the Golden State Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler. They're too old, he's too expensive, they won't be any good. Well, after trading for Jimmy Butler, the Golden State Warriors went 23-8. They had the 8th best offense, the best defense, and the 3rd best net rating, with the only 2 teams ahead of them being the Boston Celtics and the OKC Thunder. In other words, the last 2 NBA champions. This was before the Warriors then beat the Houston Rockets in the first round of the playoffs, and unfortunately were unable to go any further after Steph got injured. But prior to that injury to Steph Curry, the Warriors were one of the best teams in the NBA after trading for Jimmy Butler, which no one expected to happen. And from everything I've seen this offseason, it seems like most people are counting out Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler once again. Now I know, let's get the obvious out of the way. The Warriors haven't exactly had the perfect offseason. Well, as of right now, they haven't had an offseason at all. And I'm not going to tell you the Warriors are the perfect roster, but I am going to tell you that I believe the NBA is underrating just how good Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler were as a duo last year, and just how good they could be next season after improving their chemistry again, which obviously starts on the golf course. But on a serious note, the reason I still believe in this Warriors team, even after a quiet offseason, is because of what we saw from one player in particular over the last 30 games of the season. Not Jimmy Butler, but Steph Curry. After Jimmy Butler was traded, Steph had a new lease on life. The weight was lifted off his shoulders. Finally, he could breathe. He could move on the court without being tackled. Well, not exactly, but at least a little bit less. He could move a little bit more, and he went on to average 27 points, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds in 27 games with Jimmy Butler. And more importantly, shooting 47, 41, 92 splits. Absolutely elite. And this was before he then absolutely torched the Houston Rockets in the first round of the playoffs, going up against an elite defense with a defense that was seemingly equipped to slow down Steph Curry. Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, all of these guys, none of them could do anything to even remotely slow down Steph Curry, as he was the best player in that series, and in the 10 minutes we saw against Minnesota, he was looking like being the best player in that series again. And this version of Steph Curry, after trading for Jimmy Butler, was the best version of Steph Curry we have seen since the 2022 finals. And, well, I don't need to remind you what he did in those 2022 finals. And like I said, it was just the pressure and the weight lifted off his shoulders. Not just metaphorically, but literally. Steph actually had an opportunity to isolate against players on the court. He actually had an opportunity to get freer, to not have to run the offense every single possession, to not have to be the guy that you pass the ball at the end of every shot clock or at the start of every shot clock and hope he can make something happen. You had another guy who could do that. And when paired together, all of a sudden, not just those guys looked even better, but the role players as well, and the team as a collective. I know it was just one trade, but the impact of Jimmy Butler went beyond just the box score. And we should talk about Jimmy Butler and his impact beyond the box score. Technology is incredible. I mean, it's how you and I are connecting right now. It has never been more accessible, but as great as that is, it also means your data has never been more accessible either. And there has never been a higher chance of your data being leaked or sold, resulting in a number of risks, from being doxxed to harassed, or worst case, stolen from. That is where today's sponsor, Delete Me, can help, as they go through and do the work so you don't have to, removing your data from hundreds of different data brokers online and helping to protect you from those risks, as they have already done for me, as you can see, analyzing 357 different listings in just a week to help keep my data safe, and they will continue to do that to help protect me from online threats. And they can do the same for you with 20% off Delete Me consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/7man and use promo code 7man. That's joindeleteme.com/7man, code 7man. And whilst his numbers were cool, it just can't reflect the IQ he has on both ends of the floor. I've talked about some of what he did on offense to help free up Steph with his playmaking, his timely shot making, even his screen setting and his rolling. But defensively, the Warriors were the best defense in the league after Jimmy Butler got traded to the Warriors. They were the best defense in the league with him on the floor. This is what happens when you pair two defensive geniuses, two of the best defenders of the modern era on the same team. You get something special, and that's what we saw with Jimmy and Draymond. Just like here, where him and Draymond force McDaniels to pass the ball out to Reed. The ball then gets swung to Alexander Walker, Spencer rotates over, and with Draymond stepping up, look at Jimmy's awareness to break up the lob. Or look at him here with Pods being aggressive against Bane initially, before then rotating back out to Jaren Jackson Jr., and the moment Jackson spins off Pods, look who's there. Those are just a couple of examples, but what you'll notice with Jimmy Butler's defense, like I said, is the intelligence. He is 1, he is 2, he is 3 steps ahead of what is happening. He knows exactly what is going to happen and when it's going to happen. And when you have that kind of defensive IQ and the leadership traits he and Draymond have on the same team, you get an elite defense. I mean, Steve Kerr said that they reminded him of Pippen and Jordan. That right there is why I still believe in the Dubs next year, because when you have a platform of such a great defensive team, and then you have Steph Curry, sure, they might not have done as much in the offseason as I or you would have hoped to see as of now, but that defensive platform around the greatest shooter and the greatest point guard of all time, who is still absolutely amazing, that is a team that can still win a lot of games. And if there is another guy who fits into that defense and that system really well that hasn't been mentioned much at all this offseason, it's Moses Moody. I know people have a sour taste in their mouth after what happened in the playoffs, but you have to remember, Moses Moody was injured. He got surgery immediately after the playoffs. But prior to the playoffs, once he had become a starter, he was as reliable as you can get, averaging 11 points, 3 boards, 1.5 assists, which isn't crazy, but he shot nearly 40% from 3. And again, speaking to that defense, with Draymond and Jimmy doing all of the off-ball genius, you need someone who is going to be a defensive hound on the ball. Moses Moody was that guy, using his length, using his athleticism, his agility to fight around screens, to get in passing lanes, and to be that third piece to a defense that was absolutely incredible. And whilst I think Moses Moody might not have the upside of someone like Jonathan Kuminga, he is going to be a steady piece, and if the Warriors continue to keep him, he's a starting level player for the next decade. He is as reliable as they come. And another guy who is very reliable, despite getting some of the most hate any single player in the league gets, and someone else who also was injured during the playoffs, it's Brandin Podziemski. Because after he was being called the worst player of all time after his first couple of months of his second season in the league, after he returned from injury on January 22nd, Pods averaged 15 points, over 5.5 boards, and over 3.5 assists, shooting 41% from 3 on 6 attempts per game, to go along with a good percentage from the field and the line as well. I've never heard a player get called trash as much as Pods does for someone who did that after having a great rookie season as well. It is not a coincidence that the guy who makes timely shots, who can play make, who can rebound, who pops up in the right spot defensively, is often contributing to winning. And whilst he still has some flaws in his game, when he is playing alongside Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and they're helping to break down the defense, what he is particularly great at doing is taking advantage of those situations where he can then take players off the bounce, he can knock down open threes, he can play make as the second or third ball handler on the team. When he's not asked to do too much, Brandin Podziemski is a fantastic role player, and he's another guy that's only going to get better next season. And whilst the Warriors offseason has been slow, to say the least, are we just going to ignore the 35 games of basketball where they were one of the best teams in the NBA after trading for Jimmy Butler? I guess that's what some people are going to do, but I'm not going to do that.